Opening Up, a guide to creating and sustaining open relationships. This book was written by Tristan Taormino and was published in Kleist Press in 2008. Thanks to this 4-books analysis, we will discover an alternative to monogamy and explore a new approach to relationships. We will be able to achieve a more fulfilling love life and sex life, and we will learn how to lead a more genuine and honest life and how to break out of our daily routine. Before we get to grips with the key concepts of this book, let's find out a little bit about the author. Tristan Taormino is an author, columnist, editor, and sex educator. In addition to Opening Up, she has also written True Lust, Adventures in Sex, Porn and Perversion, as well as Down and Dirty Sex Secrets and The Ultimate Guide to Anal Sex for Women. She is also the editor of the Lambda Literary Award-winning anthology series Best Lesbian Erotica. She is a columnist for Village Voice and Hustlers Taboo, runs the adult film production company Smart Ass Productions, and is a director for Vivid Entertainment. She has been featured in numerous media outlets including The New York Times, Cosmopolitan, Glamour, New York Magazine, Men's Health, Playboy, HBO Real Sex, CNN, MTV, and the Discovery Channel. She teaches at several universities and gives seminars all over the world on sexuality and gender, homosexuality, alternative relationships, and feminism. She lives in upstate New York with her partner and 3 dogs. And now for the summary of Opening Up, starting with the first key concept. Traditional marriage is collapsing because monogamy sets us up for failure, and the idea that one person can perfectly complete us for the rest of our lives is unrealistic and even damaging. Traditional marriage is collapsing. Divorce rates are steadily rising, and increasingly more people are opting not to get married. People who choose monogamy tend to do so because it is expected of them by society rather than out of choice. We are told that when we become adults, we will find our life partner and live happily ever after. But this fairy tale clearly falls short of reality. It is no coincidence that many people in an apparently monogamous relationship often end up cheating. Having said this, many people still choose to be monogamous, and although they are aware that finding someone who perfectly completes us is unrealistic, they accept monogamy and its shortcomings. According to the author, however, there are alternatives to these 2 options, and they all revolve around open relationships. The reality is that no one individual can fulfill all our desires and expectations, and demanding too much from one person increases tension and stress in the relationship. Openness in relationships allows us to discuss our needs and helps us cope with our feelings of inadequacy, while enabling us to create connections that are built on honesty instead of possession. One of the most damaging misconceptions about monogamous relationships is that once we choose our life partner, we will never want anyone else because they will satisfy all our sexual desires. When we get married, though, we do not suddenly stop being attracted to other people, and that one person cannot always satisfy all our needs. What's more, our sexual preferences will inevitably change over time. When a person starts to realize that they are attracted to people outside their relationship, more often than not they feel guilty, so they either bury those feelings or end up cheating on their partner. Cheating is extremely common, and according to a 2007 survey, half of the 70,000 respondents confessed to having cheated in their relationship. Cheating jeopardizes our relationship just as much as failing to share our emotions with our partner. Luckily, there is another way. We have to be honest with ourselves and our partner, recognizing that one person cannot fulfill all our desires and that we will inevitably be attracted to other people. Acknowledging this gives us 2 options. We can either consciously choose to be monogamous and have more reasonable standards for our own marriage, or we can discuss opening the relationship up to other people. There is no formula for non-monogamous relationships, so non-monogamy requires extremely strong communication skills. Being polyamorous simply means that we love more than one person, and polyamorous people have numerous loving relationships that often go beyond casual sex. There is no user manual for non-monogamous relationships. They are all unique and are built on rules specifically agreed upon by the partners. A couple, for instance, may classify their relationship as primary while engaging in secondary relationships. Non-hierarchical relationships, on the other hand, involve more than 2 people. When non-monogamous partners have incompatible sexual desires, they may open their relationship and engage in casual sex with others. In some situations, couples attend swingers clubs together where sexual relationships do not evolve into anything more meaningful and remain purely physical. Multilateral marriages consist of 3 or more partners, each of whom considers themselves married to all the other people in the relationship. Many polyamorous people also practice polyfidelity, which is a multi-partner community. One of the most well-known examples of polyfidelity was the Carista Commune, a San Francisco group that was active from 1971 to 1991, which counted 30 members at its peak and in which every woman engaged in a romantic and sexual relationship with every man in the community. In any case, the type of non-monogamous relationship we choose is entirely up to us, and figuring out what that might look like will require a great deal of reflection and self-awareness. Many people think of non-monogamy as total freedom and unlimited sex and fun. In reality, the mechanics of non-monogamy, especially the negotiation of boundaries, often require countless discussions. There is no established formula for non-monogamous marriages, and this can be extremely liberating, but it also requires strong communication and interpersonal skills. If we do not connect well with other people, the relationship may well fall apart. If we are in a traditionally monogamous couple, we will need to have a very honest conversation with our partner about our boundaries before opening up the marriage. Do we want to have casual sex or relationships as part of a non-monogamous couple? Do we want our lovers to come to our home and meet our partner, or would we prefer to keep them separate from the rest of our life? These discussions may be difficult, but they will be crucial to the success of the new type of relationship. For each new partner, we will have to evaluate the changes they bring about in our relationship, see how things work, and if necessary, adjust and rethink the ground rules. If all this seems like too much effort, a non-monogamous relationship is probably not the right choice. This level of direct and honest contact, however, will lead to very deep relationships and also promotes loyalty and harmony, which are the main requirements in any positive and fulfilling relationship. Polyamorous relationships are no less committed than monogamous ones. The only difference is that the agreements are made privately between the partners rather than the public vows made in traditional marriage. One widespread misconception about non-monogamy is that polyamorous marriages are less committed than monogamous relationships, but this is only because monogamous marriages, unlike non-monogamous unions, are formalized by an outside party. This does not mean that there are fewer serious or committed polyamorous relationships. On the contrary, non-monogamous relationships take huge amounts of commitment and devotion, and require all those involved to build the self-awareness and skills necessary to experience them fully and happily. Strong non-monogamous relationships are built on very clear agreements between all partners. These agreements reflect what types of relationships are allowed, how much time everyone will share with the various partners, and what types of safe sexual activities within and outside the couple or group are acceptable. It takes a lot of work and time to establish these boundaries, which is why breaking these agreements feels like as much of a betrayal as cheating does in monogamous marriages. For example, let's imagine that we have an agreement with our partner whereby we each only have sex with people we do not know, who are outside our social circle, but then our partner sleeps with our best friend. This would significantly damage our trust in the relationship, and it would take time and resources to get that trust back. Not all violations of agreements are intentional, and sometimes it is simply a result of confusion. For instance, we may have a different understanding of what should be considered a date. We might think that taking a lover out to lunch is not considered a romantic date, but our partner may disagree. So it is essential that we be as clear as possible about what is or is not allowed in the relationship. We may also violate a boundary because of an unforeseen circumstance. Our partner may realize that they have fallen in love with the person they were having casual sex with, or homosexual desires may arise in people who have always thought of themselves as straight. All this will require us to rethink our arrangements in order to deal with the complex situations that will inevitably come up. It is not always possible to predict how we will feel in the future, and opening up our marriage will make it even more complex. But we can learn to deal with anything that comes our way if we maintain open and honest dialogue with our partner. Although jealousy is a factor in non-monogamous relationships, many of them are based on compersion, which is the pleasure and gratitude we feel when we see our partner getting on well with other people. Society tells us that jealousy in a monogamous relationship is simply a way of showing that we care, and this mentality also affects non-monogamous marriages. No matter how comfortable we may feel with the thought of our partner kissing someone else, there is a good chance that it will trigger very strong emotions in us when it actually happens. We might feel jealous of the number of sexual liaisons our partner has, or of the intensity of their other relationships. We may also feel insecure if we suspect that someone else is threatening the foundations of our relationship. This often triggers intense vulnerability and makes us want to hold our partner back. But if we understand how to address them properly, these unpleasant feelings can also strengthen our self-esteem and the intensity of our relationship. The important thing is that we allow ourselves to feel everything we feel. Jealousy is not a logical emotion, so we should try to notice the feeling and learn to embrace it rather than beating ourselves up about it. Jealousy is an important indicator of our desires and boundaries, so we have to try to understand its causes and, if necessary, ask for support from a therapist or friend. People in non-monogamous relationships, however, often experience an emotion that is the opposite of jealousy, which is called compersion, and refers to the sense of pleasure and excitement that we feel when our partner is able to enjoy being with other people. Rather than seeing our partner's interactions with others as belittling because they do not need us to feel happy or excited, we begin to realize that it actually brings something more to our life. Some people experience sexual compersion whereby they feel stimulated by seeing their partners having sex with someone else. Some people do not need to be physically present and they are simply aroused by the idea of their partner being with someone else. Compersion, however, is much more than sexual arousal and often gives us a real sense of fulfillment and gratitude that someone else is making our partner even happier. At first glance, this approach seems to go against everything that we are taught in our individualistic and competitive society. It is possible to learn compersion, but we first have to address all our acquired habits, as well as fear-based jealousy, anxiety, and our sense of competition. Working through all this will make us stronger. Not surprisingly, many people in non-monogamous relationships say that opening up their relationships strengthened their primary relationship, making them more respectful of each other, more connected to each other, and more committed to investing time and effort in the relationship. And their new sense of self-confidence also benefited their encounters outside the main relationship. Compersion is based on a deep sense of gratitude that we are able to give our partner the freedom to express their desires and fantasies, and that we trust each other enough not to have to keep them under our control. Coming out as non-monogamous can expose us to prejudice, but keeping it a secret also has hidden and harmful effects that create a rift with our loved ones. One of the most difficult aspects of living in a non-monogamous relationship is undoubtedly coming out to friends and family. Although the public has begun to embrace the idea of same-sex relationships, there is still an assumption that they should reflect traditional monogamous structures. The vagueness of polyamorous relationships often makes people feel threatened. What's more, non-monogamy may go against people's religious beliefs or morals. Non-monogamous people often worry about being met with hostility and prejudice, but also about the potential consequences of coming out, such as the effects it may have on a child custody battle or on their career. So many people in open or polyamorous relationships choose to keep it a secret, but this also has a significant downside. Keeping quiet about our meaningful relationships and hiding our partners from the rest of the world will inevitably create distance between us and our family and friends. It can also lead us to question our identity. It is crucial that we weigh up the potential consequences and make a personal choice about whether we want to come out, and if so, it is important to take the time to come up with a plan. What would we like to say, and who do we want to tell? We have to be prepared to answer difficult questions and make sure that we have people around us who understand, embrace, and support us in our life choices. Many people also fear that non-monogamy will dismantle the idea of traditional families, which are currently perceived as atomic structures with two heterosexual parents and their children. This concept of family, though, is still very new, and for many generations it was customary for several families to live together under the same roof and share household chores. Polyamorous marriages provide a new perspective on family structures, for instance by creating a tribe of lovers who live with their families and, like an extended family, support each other practically and emotionally. The thought that children might be raised in these polyamorous families horrifies many people, but with today's divorce rates, children are now more used to non-canonical families than perhaps ever before. Moreover, having additional income and support in the home can reduce the burden on everyone and make home life more pleasant and secure. Unfortunately, however, no matter how open-minded and flexible these children are brought up to be, they will always have to face uncomfortable questions and inappropriate comments outside the home. If children are involved, therefore, we will have to think even more carefully about what we want to tell the world about our relationships. So this concludes our summary of opening up. If you are interested in exploring any of these ideas further, why not try reading the book? Meanwhile, let's look at just a few of the book's most interesting quotes. While nearly anyone you ask will tell you cheating is wrong and immoral, research obviously reflects decidedly different behavior. Having an affair has become like a shadow institution in this country. It's so ingrained in our culture that we take it for granted as inevitable. It's no wonder people are so dissatisfied. Monogamy sets most people up to fail. People who practice non-monogamy begin from the same premise. One partner cannot meet all their needs and they may want to have sex or a relationship with someone other than their current partner. But instead of hiding it, they bring this fact out in the open. It sounds like a contradiction, but one of the most profound things I have learned from people in non-monogamous relationships is how confident and content they feel about the strength of their partnerships. There is no formula for an open relationship. Everyone does non-monogamy differently. Each story and each relationship is unique. There are similarities and patterns, but no one does it exactly the same as anyone else. And finally, let's make a quick recap with 4 Books' key takeaway message from the book. Traditional marriage appears to be collapsing, and divorce rates are rising rapidly because the very idea of lifelong monogamy sets us up for failure. People who choose monogamy usually do so because it is what is expected of them by society, rather than by choice. We are told that when we become adults, we will find our life partner and live happily ever after. But this fairy tale does not live up to reality. It is no coincidence that many monogamists end up cheating on their partners. According to the author, there is an alternative. To be honest with ourselves and our partner, recognizing that one person cannot satisfy all our desires and that we will inevitably be attracted to other people outside a monogamous relationship. Acknowledging this gives us options. We can either consciously choose monogamy and have more reasonable standards for our marriage, or we can discuss opening up our relationship to other people. There is no user manual for non-monogamy. Every relationship is unique and built on constant dialogue and clear boundaries, which is why a successful non-monogamous relationship requires all partners to have extremely strong communication skills. Polyamory allows all the partners in a relationship to improve their self-awareness and enables them to openly discuss all aspects of their identity.